The world of the towers and the world within the towers are not the same. The Knights of the Bloody Cross and the elves are creatures of the tower. They are the components of its world. However, the rulers and their forces are on a higher plane, representing the world of the towers themselves. The player is the mediator between the two worlds. He is the power that allows the ruler to intervene in the world of the towers. Players, however, are not pathetic puppies who unquestioningly obey the will of their masters. They search for hidden meanings. Within the tower, players can make their own choices. As I predicted, the Shadow Council will reward me more if I rebel against the light. If you have an idea, you don't have to question whether you should implement it. For even rulers cannot resist the laws and prohibitions that bind them. Meanwhile, our hero has 5 flying creatures to destroy. In this epic battle, huge spears of powerful energy and light never stopped raining down on the protagonist. While they are all in a level 5 tower, angels above level 8 can't come down here because of the tower's rules. One of the white lighters swung his majestic spear once more, calling on the others to destroy the darkness. However, their blows were so powerful that they struck the very knights who had recently been delighted by their appearance. Many of them, dying, could not understand why the messengers of light were destroying them with their weapons. Our hero noted with a smile that they didn't care about their followers. Kang Yusong remembered that these knights had done the same to others before. Our hero was well aware that his vision was only clear for a moment. Of course, the power of the buff is awesome, but it's not infinite. With another sharp jump, he barely dodged the attack. The enemy was obviously strong. Quickly maneuvering between the blows of the heavenly weapons, our hero decided to save the princess first, who was extremely frightened. He suddenly appeared in front of her, and she was even more frightened. But in a moment, the young man held her in his arms and saved her from imminent doom, as the carriage was completely destroyed. The situation was difficult, and Kang Yusong called the Dark One for help. The next moment, a crystal appeared in the young man's hand. He instructed his pet to swallow the crystal and protect the princess. Kang Yusong clenched his fist and smashed the crystal into small pieces, which he sprinkled on his cat. At that moment, the girl screamed loudly as a huge number of light spears approached her. But literally at that very second, the little cat had recently grown to a gigantic size and was able to deflect this attack with great ease. All of them landed on its dark body, causing our hero's pet to scream in pain. But the stream of spears from the sky did not stop. However, Kang Yusong was very satisfied and decided to use the Shadow Blade. One of the celestial messengers told him loudly that everything he was doing was useless. Our hero quickly climbed up on his pet's spikes and took on the celestial beings, getting quite close to them. The celestial messengers weren't going to give up easily. One of them drew a majestic sword of light. The young man barely had time to dodge it. Kang Yusong's flying daggers attacked the heavenly messengers from all directions. They were also struggling to fend off these endless attacks. But their movements were so fast that they attacked our hero and his black pet again after only a few seconds. The young man was well aware that he was off balance in a hand-to-hand fight with these creatures. He had to think of something else. He was already very tired. Would he really have to move that fast forever? Suddenly, the same lightsaber touched his body, slightly injuring him. He was very angry and counterpunched at that very second. Kang Yusong couldn't understand why they were so fast. One of the heavenly messengers smashed his ice shield once again with a powerful strike. They kept attacking our hero, and he had to come up with a new tactic. He had already received a few cuts on his body, and he was tired of this kind of fiddling. It would be better if he could deal with them all at once. However, he didn't have time to do anything about it before a swift attack caught up with him in the next second. He screamed in pain as the magical light spear pierced his young body. The celestial messenger was overjoyed at his good fortune. Now our hero was hooked like a small fish. Suddenly, all the flying swords of our hero lost their power and began to fall, much to the delight of the heavenly messengers. With Kang Yusong just around the corner, they felt that this was their chance to finish the job here and now. However, the smile never left our hero's face. New message. He will receive a blessing set to 100%. Also, the effect of the blessing titled, "He Cheated Death," clearly worked. Such a blessing makes a fatal blow ineffective. The system informed our hero that the location of the Sword of Light was being initialized. Much to the surprise of the heavenly envoy, Kang Yusong was able to easily free himself from the lightsaber. Realizing that something strange was happening, the creature shouted loudly to all the other brothers to stop. But it was too late, as our hero once again used his flying swords, which began to destroy one heavenly messenger after another. Kang Yusong was happy. He was ready to finish them right now. This time, his weapons were so numerous that they flew from all directions, and the heavenly messengers felt the full force of them. Standing on the hilt of a huge magic sword, Kang Yusong pointed his flying swords, daggers, and other weapons at the heavenly messengers again and again. After he destroyed one of the flying birds again, the system informed him that his level had been raised. His buff was removed when the battle was over. Looking back at the epic image of the recent battle, Kang Yusong realized that this battle had been very difficult for him. He looked at the knights he had recently fought. Unfortunately, they were all dead. There doesn't seem to be anyone left. But suddenly, a kitten appeared in front of our hero, cutely stretching out as if it had just woken up. This pet seems to have shrunk again. A princess approached and asked our hero why he had betrayed his men and gone so far for her. With a smile, the young man replied that there were better rewards on this side. The girl didn't understand his explanation. It seemed to her that they were his companions, perhaps even his friends. Would he really try to demand a ransom after saving her? A chill ran down her spine. But Kang Yusong paid no attention to her words and was busy with his pet, who continued to purr with pleasure. The young man raised his head and replied, "I have the terrible disease of hating people." Her questions seemed too strange to him. The girl couldn't find an answer and put her head down. Our hero continued to praise his kitten, stroking its fur and head. A few days later, Kang Yusong and the princess arrived at the border of the Ayub Elven Kingdom. The princess thanked the young man and still called him an alien. As they rode together on horseback, Kang Yusong told her that he would like to receive some kind of reward. Suddenly, a beautiful princess reached out her hand and offered our hero a certain magical gift. It was some kind of award. He doesn't know its true value yet, but it seems it will come in handy one day. The system informs our hero that he has recovered the previously kidnapped princess, and later, when the king dies, she will become the queen. From the world of magic, we return to the real world. While our hero was traveling by train to the city of Busan. Earlier, his friend and assistant had told him that the young man should go to Busan. Kang Yusong inquired whether something had happened there. Otherwise, he didn't see why he should go there. But his handler was adamant and replied that something had to happen, so he had to go to Busan. Natasha Ivanova, the world-famous gamer criminal, was supposed to appear there. She is known as one of the black gamblers. While hiding from the Russian government, she illegally entered the port of Busan and began to walk in the towers with 4 of her accomplices. She possesses the legendary ability card of the Veil of Absolute Darkness. At that moment, the phone in our hero's pocket rang. The person on the other end wanted to know about the presence of zombies on the train. Kang Yusong replied that he had not seen anything like that and asked for a car to be ordered for him. His interlocutor added that he had just received information about the tower that Ivanova's group had entered. It was level 5. Our hero needed to get there as soon as possible. It was a zombie apocalypse tower, and the goal of the raid was to survive until the appointed time. 5 players had already entered the tower. The remaining time to enter was 13 minutes and 21 seconds. A moment later, our hero raised his finger and said that he had entered the tower. The system informed him that in the early 21st century, a pharmaceutical company had discovered a deadly virus in their secret lab in Busan, causing the entire city to be shut down. This information did not make our hero happy. He knew that nothing normal could be expected from a level 5 tower. Now he had to survive at any cost. There were hungry infected all around and a secret assassination squad sent here by the corporation. In front of our hero's eyes, an ugly creature of enormous size appeared. Unable to look at this monstrosity any longer, the young man drew his weapon and called upon the darkness for assistance. But in the next second, he was very surprised, because his pet suddenly stopped abruptly and didn't seem to have any intention to attack this monster. It was just a prelude, though, because the cute kitty's mouth was already drooling. And in the next second, the Dark One took a sharp leap forward and surrounded the monster from the other side, opening its huge mouth. Then it crushed him like a giant whale in the ocean. Kang Yusong was beyond excited. Had his pet changed so much with the stone? He marveled that the young cat had suddenly taken on the shape of a whale. The black-furred creature just meowed in response. At that moment, someone nearby clapped their hands, and the sound attracted our hero. It seemed to be the same Natasha Ivanova who had told him that she had been looking forward to our hero's appearance. With her arms outstretched, accompanied by her guards, she greeted him as the hero of heroes. Apparently, he came here because he couldn't leave a villain like her alone. It was her, the black player Natasha Ivanova. Kang Yusong told her that she was a member of the Red Mafia who was being hunted by the Russian government. She and her accomplices had illegally landed at the port of Busan. His words made the red-haired girl laugh. Is he really going to arrest her and put her in jail? The young man replied with a smile that he had a completely different plan. He doesn't know how strong it is yet, but Kang Yusong has already prepared his weapon to attack. Assessing them on behalf of the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service is a rather thankless task, isn't it? According to our hero, members of their team were also members of a secret organization. Are they really going to round him up and feed him to the zombies? Natasha prepared to draw her weapon. She smiled. After all, if our hero knew that she was the Russian Secret Service, why did he have the courage to come here? The young man just laughed. It was clearly not in his plans to become an appetizer for some zombies. All he needed was the legendary ability he wanted to steal from her. With that, he threw all his strength in Natasha's direction. Dodging his blows, the girl replied with a smile that she had guessed our hero's intentions. She then ordered her guards to attack Kang Yusong. At that moment, a huge explosion rang out. The young man barely had time to dodge. A large number of bullets fired from the Russian machine guns flew at him at high speed. But he was so fast that he was able to dodge even such a weapon. A moment later, he was very close to Natasha. Swinging his sword firmly, he prepared to strike. But in the next second, the girl surprised him by showing her middle finger. The young man couldn't believe his eyes. He landed on the ground and stuck his sword where Natasha should have been. But she wasn't there anymore. It was as if she had evaporated. But before he could think about it, the glow of a flying weapon had already appeared behind him. Kang Yusong barely had time to defend himself. There were 3 gunmen and a sniper attacking him. He began to dodge their deadly weapons once again. He continued to smile and dodge the attack. Then he surrounded himself with a magical wall of ice blocks. He didn't understand how they could still shoot on target. After all, the veil of absolute darkness had now been lifted. At that moment, a black cat landed on his back and continued to purr pleasantly. Kang Yusong smiled and asked the black cat for help. The black cat happily agreed and started meowing again. The men from the special unit above continued to fire their automatic rifles. But they realized that the ice shield was too strong. They had to change tactics. Suddenly, our black friend appeared behind the killer's back. And in the next second, the man's body was pierced by a huge number of black spikes. The furry creature continued to kill one soldier after another. One of the squad leaders ordered the survivors to get out of the cat's shadow to save themselves. Kang Yusong heard these words and just smiled. But it didn't matter anymore. Suddenly, Natasha Ivanova appeared behind him. She held her knife to our hero's neck. Natasha urged him to behave, as his survival depended on it. A conversation ensued between the 2 characters. The young man asked her with a smile, "Is this how someone who wants to kill him could behave?" Natasha urged Kang Yusong not to underestimate the Foreign Intelligence Agency. She wanted to talk to him about the achievement points he'd received for clearing a level 5 tower the other day. There were an extraordinary number of them. Our hero must have cleared this place in hard mode. And after that, he only went to low-level towers. It was the same last season when survival skills were excluded. Kang Yusong suddenly grabbed her arm. Then he plunged this blade into his neck. Turning to her, he said with a smile that she couldn't kill him because he wasn't real. The girl was furious. But she didn't have time to experience the full range of her emotions. Because suddenly our hero's magic weapon appeared in front of her. He realized now that it had originally been a special trap to lure him out. They switched roles, and the girl was already on the verge of death. Kang Yusong was well aware that Natasha had created a veil of darkness to obscure his perception. However, she couldn't move to answer him because a huge number of our hero's swords were gathered around her. Our hero then explained to her that it was the ability to create an illusion of legendary rank, allowing the girl to manipulate what her target saw. Suddenly, after his words, Natasha Ivanova's weapon shattered. Kang Yusong cast a magic spell, and the huge swirls of flying swords began to spin even faster. The tips of the blades gradually reached her delicate skin, and we saw the first blood. Kang Yusong prepared for another attack, adding that she was good at deceiving others, but that didn't seem to be her strength. After all, she is the one who will become food for the zombies. Suddenly, Kang Yusin was attracted by a sound that seemed strange to Natasha as well. The system reported that the secret forces of the corporation had detected the presence of survivors. There were quite a few of them. It was AB-16 zone. Standing on the roof of a dilapidated building, the cyborg humans were able to frighten the soldiers below with their flying scout drones. They realized they had to flee, as there was clearly no escape from such powerful secret forces. The robot's eyes lit up. A secret protocol was being followed at this point. There was a massive explosion, and the system informed our hero that another player had died. He wondered what to do in such a situation. Maybe we should lower the shield first. But before he could think about it, in the next second, a huge force shattered his magical defenses. Covering his face with his hands, Kang Yusong realized that with this speed and pressure, things might not be good at all. Suddenly someone else appeared, and the presence of this character puzzled not only Natasha Ivanova, but also our player. Sitting on the floor, the girl said that 2 people died because they did not use their achievement points. And it's all because of Kang Yusong. This made the young man laugh. He apologized and didn't know how to make amends. The saleswoman replied that he should buy a set of cards. Then she would make an exception and forgive him. When the shop opened, a truce was out of the question. However, Kang Yusong suggested that the merchant approach Natasha and try to sell her the map. Fighting in front of the store makes the girl sad. Turning to Natasha, the merchant asked her to have time to spend her achievement points before she died. The young girl understood exactly what she was talking about and closed her eyes, silently thinking about something. The girl kept urging her to spend all her points and buy something. She won't get out of here alive. Kang Yusong looked at the peddler and smiled broadly. Is she really only interested in selling cards? Natasha's sudden answer took him by surprise. She was willing to spend all of her 374,000 achievement points on decks with random abilities. After a while, the young man watched with joy and interest as Natasha continued to select cards, many of which were very ordinary and did not suit her. There were also some very rare cards, but they were extremely rare. The peddler kept assuring her that the girl should not stop, because a special mythical card was bound to appear. But Natasha continued to waste her achievement points while the system informed her that she was getting regular cards over and over again. In a low whisper, the young man said to himself that the most fun was watching a house burn down. A large number of common cards lay at the feet of our red-haired beauty. Now she had the last deck in her hands. She had to get her hands on at least one useful map, or she would surely die. Natasha didn't even hope for the mythical map anymore. A legendary map would be enough, maybe even a heroic one. However, she was very unlucky and began to curse loudly. In a fit of rage, she began to pound the ground with her fist. Refusing to give up, the merchant offered Natasha to buy special potions for the remaining 4,000 personal achievement points. With a smile, the young man told her that in his opinion, the time for selling was over. The girl offered to buy him a special deck in light of the sudden deaths earlier. In her opinion, since Natasha had sacrificed so many points and failed, a legendary card was about to appear. Natasha was furious. She kept shouting at our hero, cursing the peddler who had cheated her, and annoying him with her presence. Nevertheless, the young man decided to buy a card, after which he pulled a piece out of a huge box. It was clear from his smile that the most frequently purchased ability card was Ice Arrows. He already had them. However, he decided to use ability pooling to upgrade his Ice Arrows. Our hero turned to Natasha and asked her how she felt. But she didn't want to lose the pressure of her emotions. The girl told Kang Yusong to shut up. The young man did not understand her because she was speaking in pure Russian. Suddenly the hawker disappeared. While Natasha continued to scold our hero and showed him her middle finger, there was a huge explosion behind them. Suddenly the same secret soldiers appeared with their powerful weapons. They were ordered to eliminate all witnesses. Such behavior did not go unnoticed by Natasha. However, the young man did not let her do anything, and in the next second, he decapitated her with a sharp stroke of his sword. Then he rushed to attack the secret soldiers. His movements were extremely fast, and he easily destroyed one after another while dodging their powerful attacks. They flew high into the air and aimed powerful grenades at him. But he also had some surprises in store for them. With his ice swords, he was able to stop those bright flashes of fire, and then two of those secret soldiers joined forces and unleashed a powerful fireball at our hero. The young man was surprised that the company had so many resources. Now he thought that if he could get home, he would definitely buy some shares in pharmaceutical companies. But now was no time for jokes, so with another smile, he activated a huge number of flying ice blocks. Pointing his finger in the direction of those soldiers, he ordered his weapons to attack them. All those cyborgs and drones were destroyed in the next few seconds. The system informed our hero that he had cleared the zombie apocalypse tower. As a reward for the sweep, he receives a random equipment token. He can also take an ability card from the losing player. Kang Yusong was overjoyed that he didn't even have to look at the cards. He already knew what he would get. When the tower was cleared and the players were back in their world, the losers returned as well. It seems that 2 of them were killed by the darkness paws, and 2 more are in a lot of pain right now, so they won't be able to escape. That's only if they didn't die in the tower. Natasha Ivanova was on her knees on the ground, coming to her senses. Our hero bade them farewell as he stood back, adding that everyone had done a very good job. The girl turned in his direction. Would he really leave her here? The young man replied that she might want to be arrested. If so, she should just call the police and turn herself in at the nearest station. But it was none of his business. She kept insisting that he wouldn't leave her, that he wouldn't just walk away. However, Kang Yusong continued to stand with his back to her, not believing her sweet flattery. He knew very well that dead people don't talk, and he needed this girl alive to deliver his message. The protagonist was back on the phone with his handler, who couldn't understand why the young man had left everyone alive. Making excuses for his actions, our hero continued to break out in a cold sweat. But the man on the other end of the phone was beyond angry. How in the world could he let his attackers escape alive? It just wasn't possible. Does his friend think he's some kind of psychotic killer? To calm his friend down, Kang Yusong asked him to be a little calmer and kinder. Yes, you can't take away our hero's beautiful words. He really knows how to talk. Our hero's handler was very worried about him and advised him not to overexert himself on his way home. With a smile, the young man thanked his handler for his concern. A player, an alien, an apostle. Inside the tower, the player is called various names. The same here. Weapons are an indicator of military power. But the players aren't just heroes, they're war heroes. Natasha Ivanova, for example. There are people who kill the enemies of their country without question. Do you really want Kang Yusong to become such a hero? There is no such thing as a hero in today's world. The young man thought to himself. Meanwhile, passers-by on the street were extremely surprised by his appearance. He decided to wear his hoodie so that he wouldn't stand out too much. One passerby asked his girlfriend to stop pointing in his direction. That was careless. After all, he is a thug. But no matter what these people say, Kang Yusong has been the most active player every season. Without him, our world would have ceased to exist by the 2nd season. Han Yusong heard all their words from the conversations perfectly. He closed his eyes and thought nothing of it. Meanwhile, on a beautiful afternoon, our hero was walking through the city and saw the many towers still hanging in the sky. At that moment, reporters appeared behind Kang Yusong's back. However, he was caught before he could return home. Therefore, the best way out of this situation is to disappear quickly. It was a level 5 sword and magic tower. A stylish adventure of sword and magic awaited our hero. The goal is to complete the story. It's better to rest in the tower. This is where our hero would end up anyway. The men were overjoyed, for the ceremony of their sainthood at the warrior's call had been a success. What saint could they be talking about? He raised his head to see a beautiful girl greeting him and saying that she was happy to meet our hero. He answered her prayers and was a warrior from another world. The girl's name was Alicia Celestine, the 37th saint of the Holy Kingdom of Celestine. After her words, our hero just smiled and extended his hand to greet her. He presented himself as a hero who saves worlds quickly and without overlap. What can he do to help them in such a situation? But first he would have to find out how things were on the continent of Philia. The young man suggested that it might be some kind of confrontation between holy beings and demons. The girl replied that it was exactly that. The brave warrior is so presumptuous. Then she added that both holy beings and demons lived here, which eventually led to the war between light and darkness. Demons, who should be imprisoned in the world of darkness and the underworld, began to invade the world of light. To stop them, the people of Celestine created a sacred weapon, the bow, but the demon attacks did not stop, so they had to activate the ancient weapon. Half an hour later, when our hero heard all this chatter, he was well aware that he already knew it. He wondered if he could leave right now to save the world from demon attacks. Alicia Celestine replied that she had just begun her story. The people of this beautiful place are afraid that a man can abuse the power of the bow, so our hero will have to undergo a trial. In such a situation, he had no choice but to just leave. His behavior was extremely rude, and the girl called out to the brave warrior. But he replied that he was going on a mission. She tried to stop him and grabbed his arm, for he didn't even know where the archway was. Where was he going? But the girl did not know where the magic arch was either, so it didn't make any difference. After a while, huge hands resembling a terrifying monster appeared from a large magical vortex of energy and fire. It was not at all clear how the demons were able to enter the holy ground. They appeared right inside this majestic building to the horror of everyone present. Without wasting any time, this terrifying beast began to attack the noble knights in this room. No one could understand how this was possible. Their ridiculous attempts to stop it only made the demon smile, for divine magic and the aura of blades had no effect on it. A small fireball appeared on the tip of his fingernail, as if he was preparing to strike. And that's when our hero stepped in and activated his protective magic. The knights tried to pull the girl aside as she screamed that she would definitely help our hero defeat this monster. But they only had to watch as they were already hidden behind a huge ice wall. At that moment, the huge tentacles began to penetrate even through the protective shield. She understood that their messenger was in great danger for their sake. At this point, she began to pray, asking the goddess to grant them her mercy. Standing behind the magical wall of ice, the others also began to beg the goddess for mercy. After a while, they looked at our hero and thought he was badly wounded. But it seems that it was just a good act by Kong Yusen. He told them that someone was sending him telepathic messages. He had heard that the demons were sure to come to the archway and soon the world, which was overflowing with the light that the demons hated, would be plunged into darkness. He heard that he was told to stay out of their way and leave, or he would be in trouble too. His words made the girl break out in a cold sweat. She didn't know that such a thing was possible. Kong Yusong replied that there was no time to delay, and that it was imperative to get to the magic arch. The young lady loudly announced that she had a definite idea. Then she and our hero saddled two of the fastest horses and set off. Eventually, they accelerated. However, our hero's furry beast paid no attention to all this noise. The young man praised his pet for imitating the growling of the demons so well. Perfectly understanding his compliment, the furry creature simply meowed in response. However, our hero would be wise to refrain from using the shadow blade since he had already resorted to such a method. So he asked our darky to remove his thorns for a while. The girl turned to the young man and asked if they should have slowed down a bit. Kong Yusong replied, "No, you have to keep going as fast as you can." He knew that it was much more efficient to do everything according to his rules, because no one would say anything to the best player. That's how you should have used your legendary skill. It was the same legendary skill that Han Yusong had taken from Natasha Ivanova earlier. It allowed him to manipulate what the target or an unspecified number of people saw. This ability was not combined with the crowd control ability of the same rank or higher.